Our rabbis tell us, otiyot machkimot, that letters make you wiser. What does it mean? Someone tells you, I saw in a book, I read an article, and they quote something for you. Our rabbis say, don't trust everybody who quotes something. Go and look at it inside, at the source, and read the words for yourself. Sometimes people force reads on things, and they're reading into something what may not actually be there. And instead, otiyot machkimot, it's proper to go look at the letters and say, I want to read this for myself. And sometimes, when something is visually displayed in front of you, instead of just orally heard by you, you are able to find nuances in the text that you were not able to find before. So I apologize now that the sources are not here, but they will be here soon. For now, yesterday's piece of Talmud was from Masechet Berachot, Tractate Berachot. This piece that we're dealing with today is the first piece in the Tractate of Gittin. Gittin are the laws of divorce, which deals with the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash, of the Temple.
Divorce? Destruction. Well, I guess destruction of a marriage. Destruction of the temple.
There isn't always a method to the madness of why certain things appear in different parts of the Talmud. For example, you'll study the laws of Gittin and think, hey, I'm studying about divorce, but you won't always be talking about divorce. The Talmud is a discussion, so if someone mentions a word, like yesterday's discussion about Eliyahu Navi and all that, it came from a discussion about ruins, and they have mentioned ruins, so they said, there was a story of ruins. One conversation leads into another conversation, and sometimes just one rabbi's name was mentioned, so they tell you many more things that rabbi said that has nothing to do with the tractate you're dealing with at hand. It's a conversation. It's a natural, organic flow of thoughts. As something which you don't find in a book that has an agenda. The Talmud is just a flowing book.
It's like the Monday class.
Actually,
We're all over the map.
Especially the way it became.
You should know.
Right.
You should know that some people get frustrated by this method of study, but this is the way that we study inside of a yeshiva, because you can't just have a 45-minute Talmud class, 45-minute Bible class, 45-minute. We believe that all wisdoms and all sciences and they all flow together. They're all
Coming, honey.
they're all part of they're all connected. And so don't separate things that could be connected, rather learn them all together. It's not a style of teaching that is done in the Western world, but it is a very old Jewish style of study. Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says, Mai dichtiv, what does it mean when it says in Mishlei, Ashrei Adam mefached tamid. Praiseworthy is the one. Are you cold? You can turn off these fans. Praiseworthy is, if you are at any point, just speak to Paulette. She's the director.
Are you reading from here?
And I'm not reading. My wife will be here in a few minutes with the papers. Ashrei Adam mefached tamid. Praiseworthy is the one who always fears. What did you try to do?
I'm just to see where it's plugged in.
There's just there's a string you can pull
just-
there.
The longer one.
A string.
Oh, you just pull it. Oh,
Just tug it. Umakshe libo yipol bera, and somebody who hardens his heart will fall into bad, into evil. So you have to know, there are 3 reasons why the temple was destroyed. Akamtza, uvar kamtza, because of a man named Kamtza and a man named Bar Kamtza, Charuv Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim was destroyed. Atarnegola v'tarnegolata, because of a rooster and a hen, Charuv Tur Malka, the area of Tur Malka was destroyed. Ashaka Derispak, because of a leather strap, Charuv Beitar, the city of Beitar was destroyed. What does that mean?
There's a story behind the rooster, the strap, and the other thing.
Very good. There's a story behind it. He's not speaking for nothing.
Human, animal, and physical.
And I figured that today we take apart the first story because it's the most famous. But because it's the most famous, and I've learned this, that things that are more famous are studied incorrectly. Because everyone's talking about them, and when everyone's talking about them, people who are unqualified to explain them are explaining them. And instead I figured we'd go back into the source. Wow. And in the source, we're going to discover who is Kamsa, who is Bar Kamsa, what is going on in this story. I want to read you the story first before I tell you anything, any background information. Let's read the story. Kamsa uvar Kamsa charuv Yerushalayim. What does it mean that because of Kamsa and Bar Kamsa, Jerusalem were destroyed? So here's what it means.
Kamsa and Bar means son of.
Very good. We're going to identify this person. Is he a son of Kamsa or just they both have very similar sounding names? Dahu Gavra derachme Kamsa. There was once a man who had a very good friend named Kamsa. Uval debave Bar Kamsa. And he had an enemy who was named Bar Kamsa. So his friend was named Goldberg and his enemy was named Goldberger. Understand? Avad Seudata, he threw a party, a feast for his friends. Amar le Shamei, he told his assistant, his servant, Zil aite le Kamsa, go and invite Kamsa to the meal. What is the servant? What is the deal? How does this work? How do you invite people to meals pre the post office?
You knock on their door.
You knock on their door and you invite them. In Israel, you should know, even when you invite someone to a wedding, it is still common courtesy that your family members and those who are very close to you, you knock on their door and hand them an invitation. You don't mail your grandparents an invitation. You knock on their door and hand it to them in their hand. You don't mail your rabbi an invitation. You knock on his door and give it him in his hand. And everybody else, you got on the mail, you know who you are. Right? That's already. But that's how they did it in the olden days. They knocked on the door. He said, "Here's a guest list. Go tell all these people I'm inviting them to my house." Okay, so his servant went out. Zil aite likam, go out and bring me kamsa. Azal aite lebal kamsa. He went and he brought bar kamsa. Bar kamsa, your enemy over there, is throwing you a party. What would you do if you were the enemy and you got invited by your enemy? You were bar kamsa, and let's make up the arch enemy. He's inviting you now to a meal. What do you do?
It depends what kind of enemy it is.
Enemy, they hate each other's guts.
I think it was a trap.
You figure it was a trap, right? Something is up. Why are you inviting me?
It's also a chance to maybe
make up.
Yeah.
Somebody viewed it as a chance to make up.
I mean, you can go and see what's happening and then take it from there.
You should always
So,
leave.
accepting-
Send in the olive leaf. Yeah.
Let's agree, though, that accepting the invitation, there must have been something going through his mind. Something,
Of kamsa.
because the natural feeling, I'm staying away. Must be a mistake that he invited me to the wedding. Here, there's something going through his mind. We'll get to that soon. Ata. He comes to the meal, and the host comes in. Ashkechei dehava yativ. He found Bar Kamsa sitting at the table. Amar le, he tells him, Migdi ahu gavra bal debava dahu gavrahu. We hate each other. We hate each other's guts. My bait hacha. Why'd you come to this meal? Kumpuk, get up and get out of this room. I don't want you here.
Wow.
But he invited him.
Who invited him though?
He didn't invite him. He invited Kamsa. The servant messed up and invited Bar Kamsa instead.
Wow.
He said, "Who invited? Get out of this meal. I don't want you here."
Wow.
You want to call Ima's gonna be here right now.
Kolima.
Look what I have for you.
Amar lei, so Bar Kamsa says, what would you do if your enemy came to your party? You're holding an event for your close friends and some person who clearly wasn't invited is crashing the party.
We fire the servant.
What worries me about this story is that I believe this story could happen again. I don't believe much changed since the times of the story. That such a mistake couldn't happen, that such an action wouldn't happen. What would you do if you were Bar Kamsa? You're sitting at this meal. All of town is in this meal, and you're now being screamed at in front of the whole community.
Your shame.
Wow.
You're shamed.
But why is he screaming if he invited him?
Embarrassed.
He didn't invite him, he invited Kamsa. And
Now you know what time it is.
But he'll never come that time again.
he was going to be here in just a minute. He says, get out. Now you're embarrassed. Would you get out? Would you stay?
Or you create a scene.
I would go.
You would go. Now you don't want me here, just, I'm going to get out.
I would apologize and say it must have been a mix-up. I
So he
received
was
an
invited by
invitation, but I'm gonna leave.
By
now.
accident.
I'm gonna leave now.
The servant invited him.
So watch what he says. Amar lei, Bar Kamsa tells him, Ho'il v'atay, listen, I'm already here. Please don't embarrass me.
Oh.
Don't throw me out in front of everybody. Like, I'm already here, you know? If I wasn't here, you met me at the door, you met me outside, I would leave. But I'm already here. Shivakan, just let me stay. But he's not appealing to the guy's good heart, because clearly there's no goodwill here. He says, V'yavina lach demei ma de'achilna ushatina. I will pay for whatever I eat and drink. Send me the bill.
Wow, very generous.
I ate the plate, the first course, the second course, the dessert. I drink coffee, whatever it is. Give me the bill. I'm gonna pay for it. You're not gonna lose any money on me. Amar lei, lo. He says no. I'm not going to negotiate with you. I want you out of my party. Amar lei, Bar Kamsa tells him, Yahiv nalach demei palga desudatech. I'm gonna pay for half of this wedding, half of this party. Imagine throwing a big meal. I don't know, how much does a wedding cost to make in San Diego? Give me a number.
Average 25.
50,000.
25,000? Let's make it a cheap wedding. 25,000?
It's a cheap one, yeah.
So how much is he willing to pay?
12,000.
1250.
12,500. I'm sure anybody here is making a wedding. You would love for someone to pay half the wedding.
Yeah, but not for your enemy.
Who cares if he pays? Who's gonna even know?
Yeah,
You care?
absolutely.
That's a pride thing. See?
Absolutely.
This is important. That's why we're discussing the story. He doesn't want him to pay. Amar lei lo. I will not let you pay him for half the meal. Get out of my party. I don't want you here. That's clearly creating a ruckus. Everyone's getting mad. Everyone's watching. Everyone's. Amar lei, Bar Kamsa tells him, Yehivna lach demei kula sudatech.
The whole thing.
I will pay for the whole party, everything, every expense. You have flowers and waiters and tablecloths and party rentals. I will pay for all of it. Amar lei lo. He said no. Naktei biyadeh. He grabbed him in his hands.
Oh, wow.
Ve'okmei, he lifted him up. Ve'afkein, he threw him out the door. How much do these guys hate each other?
Well,
A
lot.
the one more than the other. I mean, evidently the one offers to stay and pay and, celebrate.
Is he doing that because he is more reasonable or because he just really is embarrassed right now?
Embarrassed. He's humiliated.
But it's a way of humiliating
The-
the guy that's having the party back. In other words, he's humiliated. You're the hated person. I'm having the party. So I humiliate you by asking you to leave. You say, well, I'm going to pay for myself. And I say, no way. Now I've shamed myself
That's
because
right.
I'm
He's
rejecting your
humiliating
offer.
him back now.
And back and forth. And
Right.
everyone's kind of so...
They're so high up their tree of hating each other that neither of them are going to come down.
Right.
He won't leave.
It's difficult to get out of this situation.
Absolutely.
He's already been humiliated, so he's trying to save himself. So he says, I'll pay for the meal. I'll pay for half the meal. I'll pay for the whole meal. So actually, he's coming across as being extremely generous, but at the same time, too, trying to save himself. And humiliating the other guy now, in front of all his guests.
So what am I saying here? I want to tell you that yesterday's story involved Eliyahu the prophet appearing to Rabbi Yossi, discussions with heavenly voices. Today's story is much more tangible. I believe that you could substitute Kamsa and Bar Kamsa with two guys that just really hate each other. One was a Republican and one was a Democrat.
That's
They
bad.
hated each other's guts so much that they were going to throw each other out of the meal.
Assassinate one of them.
Who?
I don't even know the name of the guy who's throwing the party.
You don't even know the name of the guy who's throwing the party.
That's right.
And can I tell you something incredible?
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You will never know who the name is because he's not mentioned.
right.
And who does Rabbi Yochanan blame for the destruction of Jerusalem? We're going to see how it's connected. Who's blamed here? Because of Kamsa and Bar Kamsa, Jerusalem was destroyed. Kamsa wasn't even in the story. Kamsa just wasn't invited.
Right.
He was supposed to be invited.
He was supposed to be invited,
But he never
and
got
someone
there.
else
They
messed up with his
delivered it.
name.
Yeah.
Why is Kamsa being blamed for anything that happens in the story?
He was in the middle of that.
Well, he
Well,
wasn't
I don't think
part
they
of
were
it.
blaming them, but they're saying it's because of this mix-up that.
They're saying because of Sinas Chinam, that's what
Yeah,
they're really saying.
That's right. They're demonstrating it.
Yeah.
Right there.
What's the name? His mom's going to be here in a minute. Come. We have to discuss why any of them are being blamed, why Yerushalayim is being destroyed. There's one more chapter to the story, and this story becomes very tragic
Oh, yes.
because it doesn't stay in that wedding hall. They step out. Amar, Bar Kamsa says, Ho'il v'haviyat ve'rabanan. You know, when he threw me out, there was a whole table of rabbis over there.
Right.
V'lo michu beh.
They didn't say.
They didn't say anything. They didn't get involved. They watched the whole scene and just stayed quiet.
Really?
We're going to discuss why they say. I'm just reading you the story. Why did they stay quiet? Did they even see the scene? They didn't say anything. Shma mineh. So what can I learn from that? Kanichalu. They were happy about the story. They were happy to see a fellow Jew being thrown out of this party.
That's Bar Kamsa.
Not necessarily.
Why not necessarily? What else could be the option?
If the rabbis said something, but it's landing on a person who you know is not going to listen, so better you shouldn't say anything. If the rabbis thought that this guy, whoever he is, would listen and he wouldn't throw Bar Kamsa out, so maybe he would say something, but it's possible that they thought this guy, because, I mean, obviously he's so entrenched in his way, he's not going to listen to the rabbis. So that's one reason maybe why the rabbis
So
said
they
nothing.
didn't
But we're
rebuke
invited
him.
peacemakers.
What?
Shouldn't they at least try?
It's a big party. I mean, it
even
would be
worse.
safe to say it was a wedding. It doesn't have to be a
Well,
wedding.
the reason I ask is because if it's something like a wedding, honoring a couple, for them to step in and start meddling and make the man, maybe the father or the bride, whatever, more upset and then cause this whole yelling and screaming, maybe it's like they're staying quiet, not to make more of a thing over it.
Not
and
to
then
make
if
more of a
there's-
commotion.
I agree with
Right.
Rachel.
Okay, so
Might have been
Marlene is saying one thing.
inappropriate
Marlene is
for them
saying
to sing.
you can't rebuke someone who's not going to listen to you. They might know that these guys are enemies. There are people that I know in the shul. They will never get along with each other. Sometimes nothing you can do about it. That's Marlene's answer. Your answer is saying they didn't want to make a scene. They were just guests like everybody else, and it was already bad enough. Two people screaming at each other. Now the rabbis are going to get involved. It's a commotion. That's what Paulette is saying also.
I disagree, because if the rabbis felt that they could right a wrong, then even if they thought they were going to make a commotion, they should have done that. But if they felt they couldn't affect anything, then what's the point?
What right does Kamsa
What right does Kamsa?
Has a right to keep Bar Kamsa if it's not his party. He's invited just
Well,
like
Kamsa
the
didn't
other
throw him out. Kamsa and Bar
Kamsa's
Kamsa are not
not-
enemies.
Kamsa's not in this.
Kamsa is a friend of Mr. X, and Bar Kamsa is a friend of Mr. X. Mr. X is throwing Bar Kamsa out of the wedding.
Mr. X is
Out of the
fine.
party.
Okay.
It doesn't say wedding. You're right. I'm just
Okay.
trying to put like
Party.
it's not a birthday party, you know.
The event.
So the rabbis didn't say anything. He was so upset. Ezel echol behu kurza. Thank you, Bori.
Thank you.
So what is word?
In English.
Oh, I didn't speak.
There's enough. It should be to go around. I'll just tell you where we are. You hear the part where he's speaking about the rabbis? It should be in the middle somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah? You see where we are? Echol behu kurza. I'm gonna go, and what time period is this? This is after the Second Temple, or during the times of the Second Temple, when we're under Roman occupation. He says, I will go tell the government, Bey Malka, I'm gonna go to the king, and I'm gonna go tell them that these rabbis are rebelling against the king. The Jew, who's so infuriated that he's willing to go become an accomplice with the enemies of the Jewish people who are occupying the land of Israel.
Was it common at that time to do that?
No. And we're
No.
going to see that this is the first time that we had such a collaboration. Even when the Jews were fighting, they were not willing to help the Romans. The Romans were, everyone agreed, were evil. That's a very good point. Remember that point. Azal, so he went, Amar le Kesar, he went to tell the Caesar, Mardu bach Yehudai, the Jews are rebelling against you, they're preparing for an uprising. Amar le says, Mi Amar, who said? Who said the Jews are rebelling against me? I've got this country under control. Amar le, he says, watch, I have a test for you. Shadar le kurbana. Send an offering, a sacrifice, an animal to be sacrificed in the temple. Non-Jews were allowed to sacrifice in the temple. That was a normal thing for kings to send offerings to the Beit HaMikdash. Chazit imekarvene. And go check to see if they sacrifice your offering in the temple. You're the Caesar of Jerusalem now. Listen, go check if the Jews will accept your offering. Azan, so the Caesar, Shadar biyadei, he sent to him Agala tilta. Agala tilta means like a three-cornered cow. There's no such thing as a three-cornered cow, 3D cow. We're not talking here about. Agala tilta is a very fatty. It's a very good offering. Meaning he was sending him the best offering, so there's no reason why the rabbis would reject. You know what? On what grounds do you reject an offering in the temple? When it has a blemish in it. We don't offer anything not imperfect to Hashem. And therefore, he knew that the rabbis are particular about this, and he went and took out the best of his herd. He took out a cow, a calf, and he sent it with Bar Kamsa. When he was traveling along the road, now you have to question whether this was the Caesar in Rome, or this was a local Caesar in Israel who was occupying the land. We don't have a clear answer about that. While he was traveling back with his animal, Shada Be'muma, he forced a blemish onto the animal. Where? Beniv Sfatayim, on the animal's lips. The Amrele, some say, Bedukin Sheba'ayin, on the eyelid. So some say he made a blemish on the lips of the cow. Some say he made a blemish on the eyelid of the cow. Duchda dildidan havamuma. It's a kind of situation where, according to Jewish law, that is a big enough imperfection to nullify. The animal will not be able to be offered in the Beit HaMikdash. Dildidan uldidhu lav mumahu. And according to them, meaning according to non-Jewish law, it's not such a big deal. Lips and eyelid, it's not like a leg is missing. Savura banan lekrovei. So he brings it to the Beit HaMikdash, and the rabbis who were presiding over the Beit HaMikdash said, we must offer it. Why should we offer it? What's going to happen if we don't offer it?
The Romans get mad.
The Romans are going to get mad. Mishum shlom malchut. Even if it's not kosher for us, we should still offer it. This is a life and death situation. The Romans could wake up tomorrow morning and massacre the Jews.
That's what you're not supposed to.
But at the, every someone's dying on Shabbat, you break every law of Shabbat to save them. In this situation, the Romans, infuriating the Romans, could mean the life of all the Jewish people. And so in this situation, you're allowed to break Jewish law in order to protect people. Amar lahu Rabbi Zechariah ben Avkulas. There was a Rabbi Zechariah ben Avkulas. He was a big tzaddik. He was the Kohen who was presiding over the Beit HaMikdash on that day. Yomru balei mumin krevim legabei mizbeach. If I offer this animal, people might think, they'll be there in the Beit HaMikdash and they'll see that we're bringing this animal, and they'll think, oh, Rabbi Zechariah ben Avkulas, the rabbis, they allow us to offer animals with blemishes in the temple. They're going to learn a mistaken law from us.
We take it from my house. It's by my house.
So what's the other option? If you see a man running after another man, a lady, whoever,
He's bad.
holding a knife, about to stab them,
You're not finding what's good.
what do? Not in America. Call 911. What would you do in that situation? What's your obligation as a
Stop him.
Stop it.
to stop him? At what cost do you stop him?
Not at the cost of your own life.
Not okay. Maybe not at the cost to your own life. That could be.
Huh?
If this man is holding a gun and you see him aiming a gun at a child, that could be. And you also have a gun.
Kill him.
Are you allowed to kill him?
Yes.
Absolutely. The halakha, this is called. And I don't know what American law is. I'm not saying to do this on Governor Drive. According to halakha, there's a law called a rodef. A rodef is an active pursuer of another human being who's trying to kill them. Some of our rabbis extend this to someone who's trying to rape a woman. The same situation. You have an obligation. You don't have time to wait for someone else. You are put in a situation where, according to Jewish law, your obligation is to stop that person at any cost, even if it means killing him.
According to American law, you don't have to do anything.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay.
You could just stand by and do nothing.
According to California law, according to federal law, you can stop it.
You can?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you
in
don't
California.
must. Meaning, if you didn't do anything, they can't try you.
Right.
Yeah,
I
we're
mean,
true.
according to
They are,
halakha,
yeah.
you could be tried for not stopping him. We rarely in Jewish law do we allow people to take the law into their own hands. But there are certain situations where Hashem says that there's no choice. What are you going to do? You're going to be the guy filming them with your iPhone and putting it on YouTube? That's what would happen today. So in this situation, you have a man who's called a moser. This man is a less classic case of a rodef, of a pursuer. His whole purpose is to go to the non-Jewish authorities and to try to get other Jews killed. Rav Elyashiv was asked this question. What is the law of a person who texts while they drive?
Fine.
Rav Elyashiv was the foremost Ashkenazi legal decisor in Israel, passed away just a few years ago. He ruled it was no different than a man running down the street with a knife.
Mama, where's that from?
Obviously wasn't telling you to go shoot him.
Is that the red?
But this man must be stopped at any cost. If it means calling the police on him, if it means taking a picture of him and posting it around town, you have to do whatever it takes to make sure that this person is not chasing after other people with a knife.
Where's that?
In this situation, Amar lahu isavu, savu lebekatlei, delo lezul v'leima. In this situation, the rabbi said maybe we have to kill him. But what's he going to do? We're not going to offer his animal because maybe they'll learn an incorrect law from us that you can offer an animal that has blemishes. So let's kill him. Because if not, he's going to go back to the Romans and tell them we didn't offer his animal.
So by killing him,
You solve the problem.
but then the Romans won't.
No, the Romans won't know if he doesn't come back. So if the animal was offered. It's not like he was good friends with the Caesar and the Caesar was going to reach out to him next week.
But it's the government of Caesar that sent him to do the offering, no?
And so for all they know, they sent offering and it was offered.
Okay.
Amar lehu Rabbi Zechariah, the same Rabbi Zechariah says, Yomru metil mum b'kodashim yihareg. The people will learn an incorrect law that says that if you put a blemish in an animal that's supposed to be offered to the temple, that you should kill him. And I'm not willing to teach the Jewish people that law.
Harsh.
Amar Rabbi Yochanan, says Rabbi Yochanan, Anvatanuto shel Rabbi Zechariah ben Avkunas. The humility, and we'll explain why it uses the word humility, not another word. The humility of Rabbi Zechariah, the son of Avkunas, Hechriva et Beitenu, destroyed our temple, V'sarfa techalenu, and burnt our sanctuary, V'higlitanu me'altzenu, and caused us to be exiled from our land, because the end of the story was that he goes back to the Caesar. They would not offer your animal, and the Caesar wages war on Jerusalem, and the rest is literally history.
Mom, will you?
I'm going to start off with saying this. This is a crazy story. It's very strange. According to our rabbis, the story is true. It's not a parable or something.
Yeah?
But, I'm going to say a big but, with a capital B.
What was this?
We're not blaming the destruction of Jerusalem on Kamsa and Bar Kamsa.
No.
And we're not blaming the destruction of Jerusalem on Rabbi Zechariah ben Avkulas. But both of these people, or all of these people, represent serious flaws that existed in the time of the Second Temple that ultimately led the temple to be destroyed. Yeah, two people are not enough for Hashem to destroy a whole bit of Mikdash. But something about them showed that they were symptoms of a much greater problem that was going on in the Jewish people. And with your permission, I'd like to go back and take the story from the top. Now that you have sources in front of you, we can analyze some of these words a little more than we would have done before. Yes?
No, can you, it's getting a little chilly.
Open it.
I mean, isn't the story basically to make a point? It's not that these people were really, even if they existed there, it's not really about them. It's about the whole thing that's
Picture,
going
yes,
on.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I don't like it.
It also brings up some very controversial questions.
The other one, the other string.
Put it there.
Again. There you go.
Thank you.
I'm getting this. You.
The Maharsha steps into the story and he says, you should know the reason why this story, this is the chapter that deals with the destruction of the second Beit HaMikdash. Why, according to Jewish tradition, was the first Beit HaMikdash destroyed? The first one?
For three cardinal sins:
For the Jews were guilty of worshipping idols,
immorality and murder.
immorality, and murder. They were in the dumps of Torah law, of idolatry, immorality, you name it, they did it. The second Beit HaMikdash, as famously known, was destroyed because of
Because
no.
after the first temple, I think they did all these bad things, but they were still united as a Jewish people. Come to the second temple, and they
The
weren't.
second temple, the Jews were very righteous. They had big rabbis leading the generation, holy people that were involved in the Jewish people. But it was the first time where the Jewish people started breaking up into factions. You had the Pushim, you had the Pharisees, you had the Tzedukim, the Sadducees, you had the Essenes, you had all these groups fighting each other. Inside of the rabbis, you had fighting, and inside of the Kohanim, you had fighting, and inside of...
What's the results of all those groups that suddenly form after they've been so righteous?
Very good. Why did this happen? If I'm understanding your question correctly?
Yes.
They weren't so righteous.
The Netziv, Rabbi Naftali Tzvi Yehuda Berlin. His brother was a man by the name of Bar Ilan, if you're familiar with the university.
Yes.
The Netziv was the Rosh Hashiva of Rabbi Kook in Volozhin. And the Netziv has an introduction to the Chumash. And in there the Netziv says the difference between the first generation, the first temple, and the second temple, that it's not baseless hatred. It's that it is in the nature of those who pretend to be pious to persecute those who they believe are less pious than them. Listen to what he said. He's in the first generation they murdered and they stole and everyone cheated on everybody. He said, but they didn't come to this place of I'm better than you. That wasn't a problem of the first temple. It was specifically in a situation where everyone thought, I'm so righteous, I'm so this, I'm so... That's when everyone starts looking down on everybody else. And the Netziv believes it's a direct problem of people who are trying to be pious and have no guidance on how to do so, that they actually create more damage than the murder and idol worship of the first temple could have caused. It's a big lesson to learn from this.
Huge.
The lesson here is, he doesn't even say, so they were not even less pious. He said they looked, they dressed, they acted. Anyone who acted a little bit differently than them, heretic! That's the first word that came out of their mouth, said the Netziv. It's like today's generation 2,000 years ago. Well,
At least we keep our tradition really well.
from here you have to know, the first temple was rebuilt after 70 years. 2,000 years later, we're still suffering from the same problems that we were suffering from in the second temple. And that's, according to Jewish theology, the reason why we're still here. It's because we have not fixed anything from when the Jewish people were destroyed in the second temple.
Wait, that doesn't make sense. We are here because we didn't fix anything?
We are in exile
Oh.
without a Beit HaMikdash
Oh.
because we didn't fix anything. We still have baseless hatred. We still have factions. We still have everybody thinking they're more pious than other people.
Is it possible that this is just the way humans are? And we're human, we may be Jews with a chosen people, but we're...
So human is okay. When you use Hashem to put down other humans, to go over other humans, to hate other humans, you want to hate each other, fine. Don't bring me into this, Hashem. Don't make this about God. Don't make this about Judaism. Don't make this about religion. It's not. This is the problem. The Maharal of Prague is a very famous Ashkenazi Kabbalist, and his thinking is always different than everybody else. Very special. A very special style of thinking. The Maharal says the fundamental difference between the first temple and the second temple was the first temple was miraculous. There was a red string that would turn white. There were all kinds of miracles, fires, all kinds of incredible things that happened in the first temple. The second temple had no miracles in it. It was just a building. A beautiful building. A rabbi said it was the most beautiful building in the world. But there was nothing miraculous about the second temple. Nothing happened in a miraculous form. We didn't even have, to the best of my knowledge, we didn't have the Aron HaKodesh in there. We didn't have the Holy Ark inside of the second temple. The second temple was a lower version of the first temple. Says the Maharal, you have to know, the reason the first temple stood was because its right to exist was because the Shekhinah, the divine presence of the Jewish people, dwelled. The divine presence of Hashem dwelled in the Jewish people. And the moment that we destroyed our ways, we started stealing, murdering, all kinds of terrible things that happened then. Like the generation of Noah, we lost our right to have the Shekhinah rest on us. And therefore the temple was destroyed. So the second temple, who built the second temple? Ezra. Nehemiah. What happened in that generation? The Jews went into exile, and who came back?
A little minority.
A small minority of the Jewish people came back.
I mean, from Persia.
They came, the lepers, the sick people, the poor people, but they were all united together. They all came together, they wanted to build a temple. And they did just that. And then there were laws put into place. Unlike in other times in Jewish history, you were not allowed to sacrifice in your backyard anymore. You had to do it in the Beit HaMikdash. There was only one Kohen Gadol. We tried to focus on this idea of unity because the second Beit HaMikdash didn't exist because there was a divine presence resting on the Jewish people. We had lost that already. Rather, the second temple stood in the merit of the unity of the Jewish people. And the moment we destroyed that unity, we lost the rights to the second temple. And it was destroyed. What reason is there for a second temple? It doesn't have miracles. It doesn't have divine presence. The only thing that was left was the unity of the Jewish people. And you destroy that too. So there's no more reason for a Beit HaMikdash. Says the Maharal, the whole point of this story is to tell you that when you're in a world where we're on such different pages than the Jewish people, the only thing that is left for Hashem to dwell among us is our unity. Not conformity. Don't confuse those two words. Unity. And the Maharal says this problem is the whole precursor to the second temple and the exile that follows afterwards.
So could that happen today? State of Israel?
What could happen?
Well, we don't have a...
Unity?
we don't have a temple, but we have a state.
So
and we
what
have
happened today?
Destruction because
Absolutely.
of
The same Netziv,
disunity.
the same Netziv that I quoted before, Rav Naftali Tzvi Yehuda Berlin, he writes there that the direct result of lack of unity among the Jewish people is loss of pieces of the land of Israel. And it seems like we still have that happen to us a lot. Every few years, we lose another part of the state of Israel that we fought for. Very hard.
So it's not the people, it's actually the land that we're losing as far as unity.
We lose
But
a lot
are
of
we,
things
are we united?
for the sake
Are
of
we-
unity.
Are we
We're,
united?
no, we're not.
Not
Okay,
We're
so-
united.
We're not at all. I don't think you can blame us for that one. Rashi says that Kamsa and Bar Kamsa were just their names. It's a name. Kamsa, Bar Kamsa. Not the only funny names you have. I mean, all kinds of names.
They represent a type of person.
They do mean something, and we'll get to that in a minute. The Maharsha, he says no. Kamsa was a father, and Bar Kamsa was a son. Just like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Bar means the son of Yochai. That twist on the story changes a lot of things. I'll tell you why. First off, according to Rashi, the reason why Rashi doesn't make this logical connection that they're father and son is because normally it would say Kamsa and his son. It wouldn't say Kamsa and Bar Kamsa. It would just say Kamsa and his son. That's the style of the Talmud to speak that way. And therefore he says if it's saying Kamsa and Bar Kamsa, it's telling you it's just two similar sounding names, but they're not related to each other. Let's use it in our mind. We can play along with the Maharsha, that they're father and son. So the father has a best friend, who the son clearly burned all bridges with. This story and it now makes a little more sense, perhaps, why the messenger got confused. It wasn't just a mistake in the name, it was the same house. I mean, it's the same household, it's the same people, but I invited the son instead of the father. Because really their name is Kamsa. That's the Kamsa household, you know? Kamsa and the son, Kamsa Jr. But the word Kamsa, you should know, is similar to the Hebrew word for stingy. Kamsan. Also the word kometz. A little bit. These are words that imply people who are petty in their nature. Very childish, immature. The other, if you look through Tanakh, the word likmot, and such words mention people who try very hard to cause disunity among people. Kamsa and Bar Kamsa they're good for nothing names in the Jewish community. They've been trying to cause fighting and strife in the Jewish community for a long time. When they come to the wedding, the rabbis knew who these people were already. They were famous celebrities in the Jewish community for always causing people to fight with each other. They weren't new kids on the block. They weren't like this story came out of nowhere. And these people were people with a history. Kamsa. I want to talk about the dad for a minute. He didn't do anything. Like we're blaming the whole story. It says because of Kamsa and Bar Kamsa, Jerusalem was destroyed. If it would have said because of the story about Kamsa and Bar Kamsa's names being mixed up, I wouldn't ask this question. But it seems like we're blaming Kamsa with something that Bar Kamsa did. Bar Kamsa went to the Romans. Bar Kamsa brought the animal. Bar Kamsa made the blemish. Kamsa is not even in the story. Why are we putting so much blame on Kamsa?
Is Kamsa representing Beit HaMikdash and Bar Kamsa representing the people, the behavior of the people that destroyed the Beit HaMikdash?
And you're saying like the good guys and the bad guys?
Well, Kamsa is not being mentioned, so it's like it's just there. It's just a name. Just like Beit HaMikdash is just a building, especially the second building. That is just there, but no Shekhinah, no miracles.
Interesting. We want to read into this a little bit deeper. Interesting.
Are they saying that the father is somehow responsible for the sins of the son?
No, but close. The father came to this party.
We don't know.
We don't know that.
We don't know.
It seems like he was there. The
Says
Talmud doesn't say so. The commentators of the Talmud seem to understand, at the end of the day, Kamsa and his friends spoke to each other between the invitation and the party. They were friends. They saw each other at the store. Oh, you coming to my party? Yeah, I'm coming to your party. Did you get the invitation? No. Okay, come anyways. This happens all the time. You don't always get the invitation, but you come anyways because you met the people at the Kiddush, on Shul, and Shabbat. Kamsa was at this place. He saw his son fighting with his best friend. He could have done something. Blaming the rabbis for not saying anything. Kamsa says, it's my son. I could have worked something out over here. And he chooses not. I'm not even getting involved. It's not my problem. It's their problem.
Also doing it in public versus if they had a problem, it's like, let's do it in private.
You know what else happens when people fight with each other? You have to be very brave to fight with everybody on your own. Most people who are fighters, they get lackeys to come along with them. You know, you join up with somebody else. He's your buddy for fighting with each other.
You feel more powerful.
It makes you feel like strong. You know those football players that beat up the kids at school. They always walk around in packs of 2 and 3.
Korach also.
Very good. Korach has to gather around him people. Kamsa was inevitably that guy, even if he wasn't related. It's not a father and son. So he was the guy that was there for moral support for the host. We don't see his name in the story, but nobody takes on the whole world on their own. Always bullies. Bullies always have friends. And Kamsa is guilty because he's a friend of the host. He's their buddies. The Ben Ish Chai says something beautiful. The Ben Ish Chai says, you know why it says Kamsa and Bar Kamsa? It's not talking about the people. It's talking about their names. What I mean, their names? We said Goldberg and Goldberger. Kamsa, Bar Kamsa. Forgive me for using the name. The Ben Ish Chai says sometimes when you say something, you do something, you write something, even one word can destroy the whole world. One wrong word can mess up everything. The Ben Ish Chai says the whole story here has to do with making sure that you're so careful about what you say. What is wrong with the generation? Where does fighting come from? They're speaking Lashon Hara about each other. People are talking gossip behind each other's backs. They're all ganging up on there, verbally abusing people. When you fight, Sidat Chinam, the hatred, it shows up in a society where people are very loose with their tongues. They don't have the integrity. We're not talking about these people now. I don't want to hear about this person. I don't want to speak bad about them. They're people who are very loose with their tongues. Some commentaries go so far as to say that that's why, where did Bar Kamsa blemish the animal? Where? On his mouth.
Oh wow.
Hashem kind of guided him to show the Jewish people, you guys are doing something wrong with your mouth. You're not taking care of your mouth. Rabbi Yisrael Salant used to say, you know, people, they're so careful about what comes into their mouth, what kosher symbols they eat, how many people are just as careful about what comes out of their mouth? How many kosher symbols do the words that come out of your mouth carry? So careful that the cookies that you eat have 13 kosher symbols on them. But the words that come out of your mouth, who would certify those words? The Ben Ish Chai says the whole story here is about our tongue, and there's another opinion. The opinion that says, where did Bar Kamsa, where did he blemish the animal? What's the other opinion? Look in your notes.
The eye.
An eye. What's the eye?
Oh, they're not
They
seeing
saw it
good.
made into
Very good. Their vision, their perception of people. The word for mean people in traditional literature is tsarei ayin. People who are stingy. They're everything they see is negative, pessimistic. They're a problem with this generation that had to do with their mouth and their eyes. And the Gemara tells us that every bad thing that befalls the Jewish people has in it a little bit mixed in, a ripple effect of the golden calf that we worshipped in Egypt. And some commentaries suggest that's why the king, he didn't send a sheep, he didn't send a goat, he sent a calf. Not intending, he just took the best animal that he had. But Hashem was sending a message home to the Jewish people. You still haven't fixed the things that have been going on for a long time with the Jewish people. There are problems that are plaguing us with our mouth, with our eyes, with our connection to Hashem that we are not taking care of. We're like ostriches sticking our head in the sand. This whole story has hidden messages inside of it. But we're not done. Let's keep going. Some of our rabbis suggest that the reason why Bar Kamsa accepted the invitation was because, listen, maybe he's trying to make peace with me. Maybe he's trying to say, listen, what's the best way to get, let's go for a drink together. Let's go talk about it over dinner. When someone invites you, maybe they're trying to reach out, send an olive branch, this is my version of saying, we've had a long history together, but I want to make it up to you. I want you to be at my party. Bar Kamsa is invited to a party thinking that this might be the chance to make amends. When you come with that expectation, and then this story happens to you, the damage that it does to you is even worse. If you would come knowing he was the enemy, this was expected. But I came thinking that you're going to make up with me. Imagine what that does to a person. And it almost humiliates them that they put themselves in such a vulnerable situation.
But he doesn't.
But
He does not.
what does he do?
Bar Kamsa, he offers to pay for it.
Bar Kamsa is trying to pay. He's trying to do anything to do. Just please let me stay here.
So would you say that actually he thinks before he talks?
I think Bar Kamsa, according to some opinions, may have actually come to this party trying to fix something. Some say that Bar Kamsa came to the party simply because this was his father, Kamsa. And he figures, sometimes they send an invitation to a wedding, they write, to the Halevy family and children. Whoever's there can come.
Family.
Yeah. So he figures, listen, it's not that he invites me. Out of honor for my father, I'm coming to the wedding. I'm coming to this party because they invited the whole household. And even though he's my enemy, I'm coming along because I was invited. Maybe he'll be nice to me because my father's going to be there.
These are two brothers?
Some say it's two completely unrelated people.
Right.
And some say it's a father and a son. Yes.
Somebody who would destroy himself on the Jewish people because his ego was bruised. Doesn't sound like somebody who's so nice who would.
What do we say? What do we say about these two people? They were known characters in the Jewish community for being rotten eggs.
Okay, but you're saying maybe he thought they were going to make up and he wanted to be nice. I don't know. I think it was all
I know
about
mafia
a few
leaders
people.
make up with each other too. They're not nice people, but they all have that human component of sometimes wanting to just call a truce, a ceasefire.
Maybe because it works for their power structure or whatever. But
We have to
somebody
come up with a reason for why Bar Kamsa would accept this invitation.
Can't we have
Because
him
he
as
was
a nice
gonna-
guy?
What?
Can't we have him just, he's sorry for what he's done, he's sorry for the length of time that they've been enemies, and he wants to
We
make
could
amends.
have until the
it's
part
a
of
nice Jewish guy.
of him going to the Romans. That part was just. Imagine the guy
They
says.
destroyed him though.
Imagine, you have to understand that this. I'm going to tell you this story in modern day terms. There was a guy in Jerusalem who was invited to a wedding. When he comes to the wedding, the host throws him out, and he's so upset that he goes to his local PLO branch and tells them, "Hey, there are 400 Jews in the building. You want to go blow them up? I know where they are." That's the equivalent to the story.
Yeah.
The leap from being embarrassed at a wedding to going to your enemy and telling them how to kill the Jews, you can't have been a good person that just was mad.
Right.
Isn't in
That's not what
an
he did,
embarrassment?
It's what he did. He went to the
There's a
Romans.
psychological term, I
I
don't
missed
think what it
that
is for
one.
someone that does that.
Is there such a term?
Yeah, I can't remember
See,
what
he
it
was
is,
wrong.
but there's.
Oh, it's
I
like
mean, so you see that at his core, he was the kind of person that was just a bad person.
Rabbi,
Someone that's, looks nice, they turn around and stab you. There's a word.
Maybe,
but isn't in
maybe
halacha
he
when
was
you
there
embarrass?
just to embarrass.
But
When
Sounds
he
like a
showed up
personality
at
disorder.
the wedding
Going to the
just
Roman occupation,
He was definitely looking for revenge.
he was looking for revenge, but on everybody. And this is like in the Holocaust. You had the, what do they call them?
Yeah, the guys who.
The Judenrat. They worked for the Nazis, the
Yeah,
Kappel.
right.
They worked for the Nazis. They took care of the Jews. What kind of person wants to be in that situation? Only somebody who.
Didn't we learn that when you're embarrassed, it's like somebody murdered you?
Sure, I want to read you another
So
piece.
doesn't it feel like he's being murdered in
Yes.
front of everyone?
I don't think it's because of you know how you said it might be that he was like
I'll
this
give
nice spot?
you
I
11.
think it's equivalent to
You want 11?
Haman,
You want
who in the last minute said, okay, I'm
I'll
sorry,
give you
this,
11.
that. I don't think it
11.
has anything to do with him having a good heart. Because if he went and was willing to kill all these people, then he was just like a no-goodnik.
Well, that's what we're
And
trying
the
to
other
say.
guy, who was
I mean,
also
that's the answer to, to Ariela's question of who says that we have to make him a bad person. The leap here is too large for a good person.
Mommy,
You should know there's a teaching later on in the Talmud.
It could also be that he didn't realize what the repercussions would be. Maybe he thought it would be a scare tactic.
He went back to the Romans with his animal and
Right.
told them they refused to offer.
Okay, but he didn't necessarily see that the Romans were going to come and destroy the temple and.
But the Romans hated him.
The Romans are quite,
Yeah, the Romans hated him, but did he really envision? You know, when people are hot-headed, they don't necessarily see
I
the
don't.
big
Yeah.
picture.
Oh,
and
very
they
good.
did.
Oh,
They
so
would-
very good. What Devar is saying is very good, except for the fact that he had to travel somewhere to go meet the Caesar. Your anger calms down. It's not that he went next
Or
door.
it gets worse.
He traveled
Some
to-
people, the longer they let it boil, it's
Not to the
simmers.
point where they're gonna do something rash and
So very rash.
This is a. I have to beg to disagree.
Okay.
What would be the alternative if he wanted actually to kind of get a revenge? I mean, he's in the mud now. I mean, they embarrassed him. He's dirt now in front of everybody. What would be an alternative to have, so to speak, a revenge? Because he's a bad guy now.
I don't know,
What would
but
be
going to the
alternative?
Roman authorities is not the answer to
Bad
anybody.
Din would have solved it. I mean, all the rabbis were
That was
there
it.
and they didn't do anything.
Well, that's
Jewish
what's-
people
so
did
we
nothing.
need to get to this part of the story. We need to get to this part of the story.
He could have made He could have made a party, Bar Kokhba, invited the whole town and not
And not
invited
him.
this guy. I mean, he could have. It could be like tit for tat, but I
There's a
think
teaching later on, 2 pages on in the Talmud. Says, Amar Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar says, Bore, come and see. Kama gdola kocha shel busha. How powerful embarrassment is, humiliation is. Shaharei siyah kadosh baruch hu et bar kamsa. Hashem helped bar kamsa. V'chriv et beito. He destroyed his temple. V'saraf et echalon, burned his sanctuary. This whole story couldn't have happened just like that. We're Jews. We believe that in every story there must be some form of divine providence. The cow, the lips, the eyes, everything here has a Bar Kamsa is not that intelligent to bring about all these messages that we can sit here 2,000 years later and learn from. Hashem seems to have taken offense for Bar Kamsa. Now you can deal with this how you wish. What does it mean? So Hashem helped this good for nothing, destroy the temple? It's not what we're saying. But that the power of humiliating somebody, that we still do today, we still degrade people today, we still put down people today, you don't realize that sometimes even Hashem has to side with a bad person who was humiliated because of how terrible it is to humiliate another human being. I want to tell you the next part of the story. So the rabbis were sitting there. Not according to all opinions, did they even know what was happening.
Did they kill him? They didn't
No,
kill him.
no, they didn't
They
kill
didn't kill him.
What happens here in this story is the rabbis are sitting at the rabbi's table. Who even knows where Bar Kamsa was sitting? The Ben Ish Chai says he doesn't even believe the rabbis knew what was going on here. It was a big wedding. You know what happens on the other side of the wedding hall?
Not if there's 1,000 people.
No. So says the Ben Ish Chai, I don't believe it. But he was clearly upset. They said, why was he upset? He was upset because even if the rabbis hadn't seen it, they were the kind of rabbis who, if they would have seen it, wouldn't have done anything.
Would not?
He says the rabbinate at this point in our history was corrupt. They cared about their donors. One of the commentaries says. Their donors. You know, I was once at a here in San Diego.
Priests were corrupt.
I was at an event, a big banquet I was invited to. And one rabbi went around the table shaking everybody's hands. And the man who was sitting next to me said, "Oh, Rabbi, don't worry, you don't have to shake my hand. I don't have any money."
Oh.
And you know what? I gave that guy a good pat on the back. He's right. That rabbi just goes around shaking people's hands who have money. Sorry, I would love to help you, but those people are big donors to the synagogue. But you're asked here to deal with a situation that requires attention. What is it? But these rabbis, some of our commentators say, were just, they were, this was a big problem in that generation. Some say Some say that the rabbis were actually fulfilling a halachic directive. Not like what Marlene said, though what Marlene said should be written in the commentaries. And if I dig hard enough, I'm sure I'll find someone that says, like Marlene, that they couldn't have rebuked because they didn't stand a chance.
Oh, it's a possibility.
The Shulchan Aruch says that part of the laws of derech eretz, of proper etiquette, is you don't go to someone else's house before you ask who else is coming.
Really?
Nikiyei hadat b'Yerushalayim, the clear-minded people in Jerusalem, would always ask who else is coming before they would accept an invitation.
Will you come, Ma?
What if you're going to accept an invitation, and at the same table, there's some person that always tells dirty jokes or always racist comments? I mean, you don't want to be at such a table. You don't want your kids to be around such people. Someone who's careful will ask first. Listen, Shabbat that they're coming, I'd rather not be there. Bar Kamsa was known as a town good for nothing. And these rabbis had made sure, is he going to be there? We won't come. And he was there. And this host was acting out of respect to the rabbis, throwing out Bar Kamsa. Which in itself was a problem.
Question.
Yes.
Is it good for nothing? And yet money is so important for the rabbis.
Well, this is a
And
different
here's-
opinion.
here's
This is the opinion that says
somebody-
the money wasn't the motivating factor here. We're
No, but
different
no,
interpretations
but
of the story.
Bar Kamsa, I mean, money is not an object. I mean, for him, he's prepared
He
to,
could have paid for
to
the
pay
whole
for
wedding.
the whole shabam.
Sure.
So, money ma'aver einei chachamim, money blinds people. So, how come he's so generous with his money, with his enemy?
He's not being generous with his enemy. He's trying to save himself
But it's
humiliation.
money we're talking about. The rabbis will shake your hand just to get your money. And what is his thoughts when he just gives out all that money?
He has enough to
Please.
give away. It
For
doesn't
him,
matter
it's
to
not such a
him.
big deal.
It's not a big deal.
He's trying to
It's
save
worth it
face.
for him to
Save
save
face.
face.
Yeah.
I
worth
think
it
it's
to
all
spending
about
money to
ego.
save
This
face.
whole
Right.
thing is about ego, and ego
That's right.
becomes so important.
There's a lot of
So
ego
you
in the
lose
story.
That's
rational
right.
thinking.
A lot of
That's
ego in
right.
the story.
Right.
I told the mine.
It doesn't get better, this story. It doesn't get better. The last 10 minutes that I have, I want to speak to you about Rabbi Zachariah ben Afkulas. Yes.
So, is the point of the story that it's the
I'm not falling.
butting heads of the various egos which brings down our structure?
Bar Kamsa and this third guy are all fighting because they hate each other. A corrupt rabbinic leadership that doesn't take the people by the horns and say, listen, we have to get our act together. That's their job. What are you a rabbi for if it's not your job to get involved? And we're laughing because this reminds us of a lot of people perhaps today. This is the problem.
Absolutely.
This is the problem.
It's
We should
rewrite.
never come to such a test. I never want to be in a situation where I fail this test. But these rabbis are clearly failing in the story. But they bring the animal to the Beit HaMikdash. They bring it to the Beit HaMikdash. And Rabbi Zachariah ben Avkulas is officiating over this whole ceremony. Bar Kamsa shows up, he has an animal, has a blemish. What should we do? Should we offer it? Says Rabbi Zachariah ben Avkulas, no, why not? Why shouldn't we offer this animal? What does the Talmud say?
Blemish.
Just want to be an example of doing something
Other-
wrong. But at the same time, he's also
People might learn to offer an animal with a blemish.
Right.
The question is, why don't the rabbis put together a delegation, go to the Caesar and say, hey, Bar Kamsa messed up the animal on the way here. We would love to offer an animal, but we just need a new one. The Maharal asks this question. And the Maharal says you have to know something. The Maharal says not so simple. You're going to go to the Roman government. They're going to be mad at the fact that you didn't offer. Remember, the whole story here is that the animal, according to them, was allowed to be sacrificed. They didn't see any blemish in this animal. That's the genius of Bar Kamsa. He blemished the animal in a way that he made sure the rabbis couldn't explain themselves to the Caesar.
But he also had to figure if we don't, then the Jewish people are in peril. I mean, it's a really difficult conundrum in a way.
Sure. What else?
There's another big issue of should they kill or not kill Bar Kamsa.
Oh,
Another
this is the
really
question. We
big
kill him or
question.
not kill him? And what did they say?
They didn't.
He says, no. Why shouldn't we kill him?
Who says no?
Rabbi Zachariah ben Avkulas.
Since
I
when do we
agree,
kill
too, I
someone
agree,
because
right.
they gave us a
Right.
blemished
People are going to
animal?
learn that you kill people who bring you a blemished animal. And that's a terrible thing to teach people.
Yes, but he also, it would have prevented him from going to
But
the
the
Jewish
people who are in the temple don't know that. They don't know this whole story.
So the question really isn't, are you going to really prevent a catastrophe because of how it looks or doesn't look, or not do it? I think it's a good
I want to share a few things. The first pshat, what happens to Rabbi Zachariah ben Avkulas? We say the humility of Rabbi Zachariah ben Avkulas destroyed our temple. Which humility? Maybe you'll say his scrupulousness, his being so strict on Jewish law, that's what led the temple to be destroyed. Humility is not the right word to use here. He wasn't. Where was he being humble? Well, that's humility. So we must explain the way Chazal meant. Rabbi Zachariah ben Avkulas suffers from the same problem that Rabbi Yosef bar Chalafta suffered from yesterday. A righteous person who's lacking self-esteem, confidence. And he says, listen, this is a great question. I don't know what we do with this animal. It's a good question. Do we offer it? Maybe people will learn the wrong thing from it. Do we kill him? Maybe we'll learn the wrong thing from it. I don't know what to do. You should ask a big rabbi this question. In English terms, in American Jewish terms, I'm sorry, I don't paskin questions. Ever hear rabbis who say that? What are you good for if you don't know how to paskin
I was
questions?
going to say, why is he a rabbi?
A lot of rabbis tell you, I'm sorry, I don't deal with issues of kashrut. What do you deal with? What's your job? That's your job. No, your job is to answer my question. I'm sorry, I don't answer questions like that. What's your policy? You don't answer it. Rabbi Zachariah ben Avkulas, because he doesn't think he's such a great person, he thinks someone else should answer this question. And this violates what our rabbis have always taught, that in certain situations, b'makom she'enish, when in a place where there's no one else, you have to take the reins into your own hands. He should have been decisive. Stop being so pious. Stop being so humble. When the humble people, the truly righteous people, are too humble to lead, other people fill in their shoes. People that should not be leading. People that should not be teaching. People that should not be making decisions. The fundamental problem with the rabbinic leadership that was righteous in this generation was they were too humble. He wasn't from the rabbis at the party who didn't say anything. If he was there, he might have said something.
Why?
But he allowed those rabbis to come into control because he was too humble to take the Jewish world by the reins. We're complaining about his humility. It's called false humility. You're right, you're competent, you're capable. Do it. Do it. Stop pretending.
Ties into
Taking
yesterday's story.
responsibility.
This ties it to yesterday's story.
It's about taking responsibility too,
Very
not
good.
just standing back and
Beni
let
Hoyed,
somebody else do it.
no, like we said yesterday. Don't wait for Mashiach. You are the one in this situation. Beni Hoyadan. The Ben Ish Chai says something else. So his piety said, listen, this is a big question. This is a matter of life and death. This is Roman occupation. I'm just a Kohen in the temple. I think you should go ask the members of the Sanhedrin. And so what happens? They tell Bar Kamsa, it's a good question. We don't know if we're going to offer this animal. Take this animal, show it to the bigger rabbis, and come back and tell us what they say. What does he do? He walks out of the temple. Who escorts Bar Kamsa, according to the Ben Yehuda? So you think the king sends people out of his palace without escorts? Without messengers who are going to bring back message to Rome? He says, and they saw him coming out of the Ben Mikdash with an animal, going to ask a question. And they ran back to Rome and said, listen, the Jewish people are really rebelling against you. They refuse to offer your animal. Sometimes when you defer higher up, don't ask me, go ask another rabbi. They don't know another rabbi. They only know you. You want to ask another rabbi? Maybe. But you can't send a person, sorry, I can't help you with this issue. So tell them who they can call. At least give them a name that they can reach out to. You have to make sure to direct people to somewhere else. His humility of trying to pass the baton on is really what hurt him. But there's a different pshat. And I believe this pshat is a fundamental point, a turning point in Jewish history.
They were lacking a leader. He wasn't acting like a leader, like they needed.
Then that was the problem. There was a
Yes.
problem in the leadership. As I taught us once in a class recently, I said, now rabbis tell us that if you see problems in a generation, you blame the leaders of the generation because they're not leading properly. But let me tell you here what the Khatam Sofer says. The Khatam Sofer steps into the picture, and the Khatam Sofer, he says, what is the difference between a Chacham, a sage, and a young rabbi?
30 years.
Their leadership.
Wisdom, experience.
Yes. So a young rabbi
Could lack.
don't have the wisdom that an older rabbi that
Wisdom is
pious.
a word that is vague. A young rabbi lacks certain experience that an older rabbi has, or should have. I'm not going to say does.
Exactly, should have.
And you should know that a rabbi is defined as zaken, an elderly person,
Right.
not by age. The Talmud says zaken, an elderly person, ze kana chokhmah. This is a person who has acquired wisdom. You could be young and have a lot of wisdom, and be old and be very foolish. It's not an age thing. But he says that a great rabbi learns things from his experience. And that's why many people go to them. He doesn't always have the answer to everything, but he's seen many stories. He's been involved in many people's lives. He's seen a lot of things. This is a wise rabbi like Rabbi Zachariah ben Avkulas. There was once a story, not in San Diego, a person who was suicidal. And we as rabbis had to defer it to a psychiatrist, somebody who could take care of the situation. Psychiatrist met with his patient and said, you don't have to worry so much. I'm not a psychiatrist, I can't tell you. I didn't diagnose. They said, this person is lacking the guts to kill themselves. So they will suffer from severe depression. They can go for help. But when they threaten with suicide, their threats are quite empty. And I don't know how you diagnose this stuff. That's why we deferred them up the food chain. Rabbi Zachariah ben Avkulas says, in my experience, this guy's mad. Like Devorah said. He wants to get the Romans on board. Hey, it's not such a big deal. He's not really going to go back to the Romans and get the Jews killed. I've never in my life, says Rabbi Zachariah, seen a Jew that is willing to cooperate with the Romans. It was unheard of. Even the Jew that hates us the most is not going to go cooperate with the Romans. And he did just that. Bar Kamsa even outsmarted Rabbi Zachariah ben Avkulas. And Bar Kamsa happens to be the first time in Jewish history where you find a Jew, at least in this period of Jewish history, where you find a Jew who is willing to collaborate with our enemies because he hated us so much. The traitor. This.
They knew it was going to happen because they said then they proposed to kill Bar Kamsa so that he would not go and inform
And so what is Rabbi Zachariah ben Avkulas saying? He's giving them an excuse. But says the Khatam Sofer's excuse is, from my experience of the Roman occupation, nobody really goes to the Romans and get the Jews killed. They just threaten us with the Romans and they shake things up a little bit. I don't believe that this guy has the guts to go to the Romans and get us killed.
It talks about the blood shadow.
It was a wrong choice.
Was Ben Kamsa God messenger?
Very good. The rabbis have this discussion. So did Bar Kamsa, was he the scapegoat for bringing out what was inevitable anyways?
Just
Or
like-
did Bar
No.
Kamsa bring an extra level of evil that might not have happened? Our rabbis seem to say that if it wasn't for Bar Kamsa, our temple might have been destroyed, because that bothered the Romans always, our temple, but we might have stayed in Israel as an occupied nation, like the Romans did in many other places. But Bar Kamsa, he pushed the envelope one level further. He not just got our temple destroyed, but what does Rabbi Yochanan say at the beginning of the story? Charuv Yerushalayim. Sorry, at the end of the story. He says, Rabbi Zachariah ben Avkulas, Hechrivat Beitenu, destroyed our temple. Safat Echalenu, he burned our sanctuary. Vehiglitanu Ma'otzenu. And it was because of his humility that pushed the envelope one more level further that we were forced even out of our homes in the first place. Meaning, it seems like there was a mix here. There was God's will coming into play, but it was further aggravated, further increased, further magnified because of this whole story. And if I want to summarize for today, you find a few main problems. Kamsa, Bar Kamsa, which is based on hatred. which you will hear people talk about over the 9 days, these 3 weeks, based hatred, you have to love everybody, you have to be united with everybody. That is only 1/3 of the story. That's true that that's a problem. It still is a problem in the Jewish street today. But that problem doesn't start from the people. That problem starts higher up the food chain. You have rabbis that were involved in this hatred. People that should have been setting an example and did not set an example. 1/3 of the blame goes on them also. They were not righteous leaders of the Jewish people. They sometimes propelled people into these wars. They sometimes, once there was some, I can't explain this to you in a nicer way, but there's still some fighting, if you haven't noticed, between the Orthodox and Reform and conservative factions of Judaism. And somebody once, some people like to push people's buttons, and once somebody kept bringing up Reform Jews by Rabbi Peretz's class, and Rabbi Peretz just blew up in the middle of the class. He said, how much do you want to talk bad about these people? He said, don't agree with them. You know that I don't agree with them. He said, I don't agree with their opinions. You know I don't agree with their opinions. But you want me to sit here all day and talk about how bad they are? That's what you want from me? I was so upset. But how can you just drop it already? I'm not telling you that they're right. I'm not giving, but why are we fighting a war? What is the point of this war? What are you going to get out of it? And sometimes it's not the problem. It's not the problem with the people. The people are learning from somewhere else. They're seeing something else. And the third question is about Rabbi Zechariah ben Avkulas, who's mentioned 3 other places in the Talmud as having destroyed the temple because of his actions. Always to do with his humility. And this is something I learned from Rabbi Peretz, and this is something I wish to share with you. The Gemara says, Rabim chalalim hipila, v'atzumim kol harogea. Tanakh, there's a verse that says that many dead bodies were killed, were destroyed. V'atzumim kol harogea, and the multitudes that were murdered are too great to describe. Says the Gemara, what does it mean, Rabim chalalim hipila? Who is it referring to when it says that there are many dead bodies in the world because of these people? Elu talmidei chachamim shelo higiu l'hora'ah u'morim. These are the Torah scholars that are not fit, are not worthy for the title of rabbi, but they still teach anyways. These people cause more destruction than the Jewish people than anybody else. But the Talmud continues. But who is a greater offender than the unqualified who teach? V'atzumim kol harogeha. Elu talmidei chachamim shehigiu l'hora'ah. These are the Torah scholars that have reached a place where they should teach. And they should take the mantle of leadership. Ve'enam morim, and they don't do it. Because what they do is they enable the other people to get involved. They enable the other people to take over. They enable, when Rabbi Zechariah ben Avkulas says, I'm too humble to lead. I'm not great enough to lead. He ends off passing the baton of leadership of the Jewish people to those rabbis who are at the party. The rabbis who the Talmud doesn't even tell us their name, because they might not have been worthy of mention. And that is the threefold crime of the Jewish people in the Second Temple. People who are corrupt and hating each other, a leadership that is running after money and ego, and the great people who should be leading but choose not to lead because they're suffering with a lack of self-confidence and self-esteem. And these 3 problems are the problems that destroyed our Beit HaMikdash. And I'm asking us in our life, don't make these problems. Don't learn incorrect spiritual values from people who are not qualified, and push those who are qualified further. And if there are things in your life where you can make a difference on, sometimes it's that one word that you don't say at a party. Sometimes it's the wrong name you deliver the invitation to. Sometimes it's those little actions that you think are not such a big deal that really could destroy the whole world. Your words, your actions are important. And as Rav Chaim of Volozhin says, the student of the Vilna Gaon, he says, if you would know how powerful your speech was, your speech could do much greater things than build the 3rd temple, and your speech could be more destructive than Titus, who destroyed the 2nd temple. And in our speech, in our thoughts, in our perception, our mouth and our eyes that see this world, it's sometimes the little nuances that make the difference between rebuilding and destruction. And we have to always make the choice of b'chalta b'chaim, to choose what is right, even if it hurts, even if it's difficult, even if it's not what the greater people are telling you to do. But you always have to be on the right path. And when you're on the right path, you will be leading the Jewish people, because inevitably you have chosen not to be too humble to lead, but you'll have chosen to take the reins, to take the bull by the horns, and lead the Jewish people into a much better future. B'ezrat Hashem. We'll see you tomorrow at 10:30.